Hello fellow YouTubers, I'm Cassandra Joy and welcome to episode 2 of Chats with Cass. I did have a whole other topic lined up for today's episode, but then I remembered that it's Valentine's Day, or close to it when this comes out. When I polled you all for what topics you wanted me to cover, one of you suggested that I talk about my past relationships. Well, this Pringle has been single for the entirety of her life, so I sadly don't have any relationship stories to tell you, but I can cover crushes and heartbreaks. So I thought today I would chat to you about my first ever big girl crush and subsequent big girl heartbreak. I also realized I'm wearing black for this occasion. That was completely by accident, not by design. I only just realized it makes me look a little bit like I'm mourning this heartbreak, but I promise I'm not. I just felt pretty in it, that's all. Let's jump in a time machine and hop back to 2008 when 18-year-old Cass goes to college. For anybody who doesn't know, I went to college in Winona Lake, Indiana, a really small lake-like town, lots of adorable shops to explore. It's really pretty over there. Freezing in the winter, but very beautiful most of the year. I will not be naming this boy's name, but I will give him a code name because I can't just say the boy this whole time. Ooh, what code name could I give him? Let's call him Cal. My college was lacking in many things, but one of the things it did really well was to integrate its freshmen and make them feel welcome. The way my campus was set up, there were girls' dormitories on one side of the campus, and then across the way a little bit, there were boy dorms. And each subsequent floor of these dorms were brother and sister halls. So at the start of the year, as everyone's moving in, getting to know each other, the brother and sister halls would all meet together and kind of get to know each other. At this get-together, all of us fresh-faced girls got prettied up. All of the boys rolled out of bed and I assume did absolutely nothing to prepare for this meeting. Met in the common room of our dormitory to all say hello. As young girls are apt to do, we all immediately started scoping out the boys, mentally tallying which ones we thought were exceptionally cute. The boy I immediately fixated on was Cal. Before we go any further, let me take a moment to describe what Cal looked like. He was the impersonation of my aesthetic type. Tall, soccer player build, dark hair, and stubble. You could not have picked out a more aesthetically pleasing human being to my 19-year-old self than Cal. It didn't hurt any that he was exceptionally charismatic and charming, extroverted, a very natural leader, the whole package of which I found extremely attractive. But I didn't know anything about him yet, and there were lots of other boys there, so we all spent the time getting to know each other. As I'm sure you can imagine, when this meet and greet ended, all of the girls went back to their rooms and swapped notes on the various boys we found appealing and what we liked about them. What I found out later is that when the boys went back to their dormitories, they did the exact same thing. Cal rounded them all up, sat down and said, "All right, which ones do you think are cute?" Throughout the college year, I start getting to know my brother dorm, and they're all so sweet. I don't have any older brothers, but I always wanted one, and that was the experience I got at college. I had a bunch of guys my own age that for the most part had no romantic interest in me. We could just be friends, and as someone who had never had guy friends before, it was a really nice change of pace. They would walk us back to our dormitories if it was later in the evening. They were just really good guys, and I will always remember that part of college really fondly. I also got to know Cal a little bit more. One of the things our colleges did was have open dorms. I forget how often it would happen, maybe once a month, maybe every other week, but it would switch off between the girls' dorms and the boys' dorms. And obviously whenever the boys came over, us girls made everything spick and span. We had snacks, we dressed up, we put perfume on. It was a whole ordeal because we wanted to be very impressive. It didn't take me long to learn that Cal was extroverted, very personable, instantly likable, and easy to talk to. I was head over heels in crush with this boy, and I should have caught on far faster than I did that half the campus was also head over heels in crush with this boy. I won't say that there was an unspoken competition between the girls on who could get his attention the longest, but looking back, I think there might have been. Farther into my freshman year, I felt I knew Cal well enough to come to the decision that he would be a really nice boy to date. And with the encouragement of some of the girls in my dorm hall, I did something I never ever thought I would do. I made the first move. Now granted, this was after many nights of IMing. Anybody remember that? Back and forth, little flirtations, sweet conversations. I mean, in my mind, everything was kind of pointing to, I think he might like me. And since he's not making a move, maybe I should? So I got on Instant Messenger. I had my girls behind me, coaching me on what to say, on how to write it. Scariest moment of my life. We'll never be doing that again. I won't torture you with telling you exactly what I said because one, I can't remember, but two, I think all you really need to know is there were paragraphs. paragraphs of outpouring feelings. Oh, poor naive, sweet little love-struck Cass. After I sent everything, I waited and waited. He wasn't responding, so I hesitantly typed, "Can you say something?" He responds with, "I'm reading," so I resigned myself to wait on pins and needles. And the culmination of what he responded after reading is that he thought I was a really nice girl and he really appreciated my asking, but he just wasn't interested in a relationship right now. To his credit, it was a very respectful, kind rejection, but I don't think it would have mattered what he said or how he said it. Either way, I would have been crushed. But I tried to take it in stride. I tried to be positive. The girls that were coaching me behind me were like, "Oh, well, you know, maybe he'll come around. There's still more time in the year." I mean, trying to be really supportive. So now that you're armed with that information, what followed should make a little more sense. As I mentioned before, Cal was very personable, very charming, an easily likable guy. He was also an utter flirt. And 19-year-old Cass, having zero prior experience in the world of flirting, was having a really hard time compartmentalizing the flirting against the rejection. And when I tell you, I would stare up at the ceiling going over every detail, every conversation, every word exchanged between us, trying to decipher whether or not there were hidden meanings in what he said, if I was reading into things, seeing things that weren't there, because his actions weren't lining up with his words. He was hanging out with me quite a lot. He was 100% flirting with me, sometimes even seeking me out, sitting next to me. It all felt very mixed signally, a world in which I had no idea how to navigate. So my feelings were doing this a lot. Let me give you an example of one of those mixed signally situations. The brother and sister Hall decided to go out and have a hangout at a local park. It was sunset, we took pictures, making body pyramids, all sliding down the curly slide at once to take pictures. We were being ridiculous and having a blast doing it. To this excursion, I wore this Gap sweatshirt. I was very tiny at the time, it was dreadfully oversized, and I felt like the epitome of a cool person in it. Don't ask me why, I just thought I looked great. Looking back at pictures, I'm not sure what I saw in that particular outfit, but okay, 19-year-old Cass, we're gonna go with it. Because the campus was so small and most of us didn't have cars, so we walked everywhere. After this hangout, we were all walking back to the dorms. On the way, it got a little chilly, which Cal mentioned with a little bit of a shiver. I, in a moment of gallantry, offered my sweatshirt. It was oversized, I knew it would fit him, and I was just being nice. Definitely not flirting in any way, shape, or form. I can practically hear all of you going, "Aww." Cal accepted the sweatshirt offering and, to my thrill, put it on. We continued walking back to campus. He got a phone call and started lagging behind. We all left him to it. Part of my brain was kind of like, am I gonna get my sweatshirt back? Because he's leaving the group and there was no mention of giving it back. I probably should have laid down those ground rules, but oh well, it's fine. I didn't get that sweatshirt back for at least a week. Strange behavior from a boy who claims he doesn't like you, right? At some future hangout, I do get it back, and it smells deliciously of men's cologne. As he's handing it back to me, Cal asks, "Hey, what perfume do you use?" And I asked, a little suspiciously, "Why?" He shrugged and said, "Well, all the guys in the dorm were trying to figure out what perfume your sweatshirt smelled like. I mean, we even passed it from room to room. Each guy kept it for a night trying to figure out what the smell was." This only slightly shattered my daydream of Cal wearing my sweatshirt for over a week because he was secretly in like with me. So I replied, "Oh, vanilla and cotton candy from Bath & Body Works, because that's what I wore." Lots of situations like that happened throughout the course of the year. Again, lots of actions not lining up with words. So you can understand how I was very confused, filled with hope, and then let down repeatedly. By this time, all the girls in the dormitory knew I liked him. I wasn't trying to keep it a secret. I think I felt like the more people who knew, somehow the more chance I would have with him. Not a good strategy. Let me just tell you that right now. It's been quite a few years since I was at college, so a lot of the details are fuzzy. My mom, who keeps all records of the people who wronged me, can recall far more details about this time in my life than I can. But one detail I do remember, I think will solidify to you the leading me on aspect of Cal. I believe it was the summer after freshman year. I was home for the summer, deeply into songwriting. I had a lot of inspirational material to work with, lots of overflowing feelings I could turn into lyrics, when I get a text from Cal. He's gonna be passing through Ohio and wanted to know if he could stop by for a hangout. When I tell you, my heart went from my chest to my stomach in the most thrilling and horrifying way possible. I don't think I ate much the day of. I was so full of butterflies. I remember painstakingly picking out my outfit to perfection, making sure my hair looked good, my makeup was great. I wanted to look like the peak of beauty for this young man. He comes by, we chat, he meets my parents, he has lunch with us, we go on a walk by the levee and have a really personal chat about dreams and hopes and visions of the future. As we were walking down a grouping of rocks, he helped me down them with his hand. To say I was all of a flutter is an understatement. We returned back to the house. He asked me if I had written any songs lately, because at that point I was unabashedly posting all of them to Facebook. And I said, yes, I do. I have some if you'd like to hear. What I didn't add was, they're all about you. So I sit down with my guitar. My mom is in the sitting room pretending not to eavesdrop, but totally is, because duh, of course she is. I play my songs, and at the end of them, he kind of looks at the lyric sheets and looks back at me and kind of says carefully, are these songs about anyone in particular? Such a perfect opening. Did I take it? No. I immediately said, oh, you know, they're not about anybody in particular. Lies, all of them lies. After a while he gets up to leave, I walk him to the door. He had asked for one of my little music albums that I had self-published, which of course I gave him. He insisted on paying for it. I said, no, you don't need to pay for it, it's okay. As I try to playfully shut the door in his face before he can pay me, he throws a $20 down on the porch and leaves with a smug grin on his face. Of course, that made me just swoon all the more. I wait for him to leave, close the door, lean my back against it, thunk my head against the window, and just go my full body deflate. Now, let me translate to you the conclusion I came to after this random day visit. He didn't have to stop by my house on his way to wherever he was going. He wanted to stop and hang out with me. He didn't have to stay as long as he did, but he overstayed to spend time with me. He didn't have to meet my parents. He didn't have to listen to my songs. Visiting me was his suggestion, not mine. All of these thoughts culminating to the conclusion of, he must like me, because why else would a guy go out of his way to spend all day with a girl? I feel like that's a pretty fair conclusion all of us would come to, right? All right, I need a pillow because we're getting to the good stuff. What I didn't know at the time was that he was trying to start a little side business. I don't even fully remember what the business was, something about selling books. But during his visit, he had been asking me a lot of questions about my major, which at the time was graphics design. And at the time, it didn't seem out of place. It was kind of something we all talked about. Being college students, talking about our majors was kind of commonplace. What I would only learn later, after a lot more of these kind of visits, where he didn't necessarily come to my house, but he sought me out to spend time with me, is that he wasn't seeking me out for the purpose of getting to know me better, wasn't flirting with me because he had any intention of dating me. He was buttering me up to ask me to make a logo for his business. Yep. Which I never ended up making, so you can all breathe a sigh of relief there. He never got what he wanted, but that's a whole other story. To the credit of my friends at the time, they all did try to warn me. They all kept saying, I've seen him when he's dating someone, when he really likes a girl, and he's not acting that way with you. I was getting a lot of mixed signals, a lot of back and forth. What I was seeing and experiencing didn't line up with the rejection he had given me and the things my friends were saying. So I was a hot mess of feelings, lots of emotions, which long story short ended in a royally painful heartbreak. I remember in my dorm room I had this really cozy egg chair that you just sort of curl into. I was alone in my dorm room on the phone with my mom in tears at the peak of my heartbreak, at my wit's end, away from home, homesick, asking questions like, what is so repulsive about me? What is so wrong with me that I am undateable? Why not me? It was my first experience being led on by a guy, but because of my inexperience, because I had never dated anyone before, I didn't know the signs to look for. The advice I was getting from my friends were, he's not interested. Stop being in crush with him. But anytime I would tell someone, family, friends from home, of his actions, of the way he behaved, they all came to the same conclusion of, well, it sounds like he likes you. And it was all for the sake of a logo. Now, before any of you get too sad, there is a funny ending to this story. Jump back in the time machine and flash forward to a couple years ago when my friend Amanda from the YouTube channel This Fantastic Life invited me to a weekend stay at her parents' house in where? Winona Lake, Indiana. It had been at least a decade since I had been back there, and I thought, sure, that could be fun. So we get in the car, have a little road trip, even drive past the college, which was all sorts of weird to see again, and settle in for a nice visit with her lovely parents. Now, just to set the scene, we're at the dining room table, just us ladies. Amanda's here, I'm here, Amanda's mom is here. Through the course of conversation, asking me about my time at college, we get around to the subject of Cal. I hadn't said his name, but I described the whole situation with a lot less detail than I'm telling you, just the broad strokes. To which Amanda's mom kind of frowns and says, "What was his name?" I tell her his name. Amanda's mom goes, "We just had him over for dinner last week." I look over at Amanda and she's doing this. Just ping-ponging with her eyes between the two of us. To which I immediately start backpedaling, desperate to not offend anybody, saying, "Well, you know, I mean, I'm sure we've all changed. I'm sure we've all grown up since then." Except inwardly, all the alarm bells are going off. I'm inwardly panicking and mentally rewinding. What did I say? How did I say it? Oh no. So now Amanda's family have a brand new perspective on Cal and his past characteristics. Last I heard, he's married and has a little one. I hold no ill feelings toward him. I'm glad that his life turned out so well and he got everything he wanted. But I'm especially glad that his being a jerk helped inspire some of my best songs. And that is the story of my college crush, my very first grown-up heartbreak, and my hard-learned lesson on telling the difference between when a guy is in like with you and when he's using you. Happy Valentine's Day! I hope that story was as entertaining for you to listen to as it was for me to tell it. If you're comfortable, I would love to hear some of your young and in crush heartbreak stories in the comments below. Thank you so much for hanging out for episode 2 of Chats with Cass. I hope you enjoyed this one. And here's hoping your Valentine's Day is far better than my college one. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you never miss a future video from me. I upload on Wednesdays and Saturdays, both at 6 a.m. and would love for you to be part of this little online family. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Love you guys. Mwah.